Salvador Dalí was born in Figueres, Catalonia, Spain on May 11, 1904. Dalí attended art school as a child, and then at the age of 18 he began studying at the Real Academia de Bellas Artes de San Fernando. Dalí experimented with Cubism, and his paintings utilizing this style drew a lot of attention. Later on, Dalí began to experiment with Dada. Dada was an art movement that began in Switzerland that began to push the limits of what was accepted or normal. This artistic movement didn't focus on making art aesthetically pleasing. Dalí was expelled from the academy in 1926 because he was accused of starting an unrest. Dalí went on to meet Picasso and Miro. He was also introduced to many surrealist artists at this time. His own personal artistic style was heavily influenced by Picasso and Miro, along with some Renaissance artists such as Raphael and Bronzino. Dalí officially joined the Surrealist group in the Montparnasse quarter of Paris in 1929. A majority of Dalí's art falls into the style of Surrealism. Marie-Laure de Noailles and Viscountess Charles were his first patrons. Dalí created Persistence of Memory during this time, and this is one of his most famous pieces. Another patron of Dalí's was Edward James. James purchased a lot of his earlier works and financially supported Dalí for 2 years. With James as his patron, Dalí created Lobster Telephone and My West Lips Sofa.
The title of the work is Galatea of the Spheres, and the subject of the work was Salvador Dalí's wife, Gala Dalí. It depicts the bust of Gala composed of spheres seemingly suspended in space. Gala was considered to be his muse as well as his world and savior. The painting represents a synthesis of Renaissance art and atomic theory, whereby spheres represent atomic particles. The subject of the painting is not easily recognized. One would have to know more about the artist in order to understand the painting. Apart from being a depiction of Dalí's wife, the painting also shows the great interest that Dalí had in nuclear physics, as he also described the atom as his favorite food for thought. It was also symbolic of his attempt to reconcile his renewed faith in Catholicism with nuclear physics.
The piece was created in 1952. Dalí was inspired to create a painting to capture the mysticism and awe he experienced upon the first detonation of an atomic bomb in August of 1945. During this time period, nuclear physics was still a breakthrough up-and-coming field of study, which greatly intrigued Dalí. The notion that all matter was created of particles which never touched inspired Dalí to create a work with a similar theme. The circular portions of Galatea of the Spheres depicts Dalí's muse, his wife, in a disconnect form, yet still as a recognizable object, just as subatomic particles never touch each other but still form atoms, matter, and objects. This theme may not have been understood by the general public of the time, since nuclear physics theory was not readily accessible or explained to the common man.
This painting is an oil-on-canvas painting, and it measures about 65 by 54 centimeters, which is about 25.5 inches by 21.25 inches.
When it was first created, Dalí expressed his wish for the painting to be displayed in the Palace of Winds, a subset of suites part of the Dalí Theater and Museum in Figueres, Spain. It has remained there on permanent display, with only a few recent relocations for temporary art exhibits. We can assume that the first audience to view this painting were already familiar with and approved of Dalí's art style, since it was located in a permanent building exhibit dedicated to his works. As a result, most people reacted positively to the painting, and it has always been viewed in high esteem. The painting's original purpose was to capture the confusing and mystifying nature of atomic theory while immortalizing Dalí's loving wife. The mixing of the subjects creates an almost ephemeral or magical view of Gala Dalí, which was most likely how Salvador saw her in his own eyes. Additionally, the disconnect spheres in the painting portrayed one of the most basic and fundamental teachings of atomic theory, which may have sparked some interest in the subject for the general public. These themes and purpose have carried over and remain prominent to viewers even to this day.